A war of words has erupted between Sydney and Melbourne after ABBA announced it will bring its revolutionary Voyage concert down under.
For years, Agnetha Fältskog was the voice behind ABBA's biggest hits. Her golden vocals on The Winner Takes It All could stop people mid-conversation. Then she just disappeared. The theories ran wild. People wondered if it was a case of burnout or if she left because of her band drama, not to mention her messy divorce in public. Nobody had answers, and the questions brought about different conspiracy theories. Now she is ready to talk, and the world is listening. What happened behind the scenes, and why did she take so long to talk about it? Join us as we uncover the truth behind Agnetha Fältskog's disappearance. Agnetha's silent golden years. Agnetha Fältskog stood out during the height of ABBA's success, not just as a member of the group, but as the voice behind some of its most memorable tracks. Her tone and phrasing gave the music a lasting impact, helping their music remain relevant long after their release. However, at the height of her career, Agnetha Fältskog stepped away from the spotlight in a move that caught many off guard. Despite being one of the most recognizable voices in pop music, she chose a life of privacy, distancing herself from the public and the industry that had once embraced her. The decision marked a sharp contrast to her earlier visibility and left a noticeable gap in the music scene. Over time, her withdrawal became a subject of speculation and curiosity, often cited as one of the more mysterious turns in pop history. Her retreat from the public eye stretched over 25 years. During that time, she avoided the spotlight, stayed away from recording, and distanced herself from the pressures of fame. Despite ongoing speculation from fans and media, she offered little explanation for stepping back from a career that had once placed her on the global stage. Her absence became a long-standing mystery in the music world, with few clues as to what led to such a prolonged break. After years of silence, Agnetha Fältskog has started to speak more openly about her long absence from the music world. In a recent interview with Swedish media, she described the emotional toll that came after ABBA's breakup. At 74, she reflected on the fatigue and sense of emptiness that followed years of intense performing and public attention. According to her, the experience left her drained, with little left to give, either to her career or to her own sense of peace. But this newfound openness about her personal struggles wasn't the only topic Agnetha felt compelled to address. She also decided to tackle one of the most persistent rumors that has followed ABBA since their heyday. But was there really any truth to the stories that had captivated fans and the media for so long? Breaking ABBA's biggest myth. Stories about tension between bandmates tend to get exaggerated, and ABBA hasn't been immune to that. For years, there's been talk about a rivalry between Agnetha Fältskog and Agnefrid Lyngstad, rumors suggesting a behind-the-scenes competition for lead vocals. That narrative has stuck around, despite little evidence to support it. In a recent interview with Lithub, Agnetha addressed the speculation directly. She made it clear there was no feud, explaining that the two supported each other throughout their time in the group, especially during tours. Agnetha Fältskog described her working relationship with Agnefrid Lyngstad as straightforward and cooperative. When one of them faced vocal issues or illness, the other would step in without hesitation. It wasn't about competition or trying to outshine each other. It was about getting the job done and keeping the performance strong. That kind of teamwork doesn't match the long-running media stories about rivalry or drama. Instead, it points to a professional dynamic built on trust and shared responsibility. Back in 2009, Agnefrid Lyngstad spoke with Aftonbladet and addressed the long-running rumors about tension between her and Agnetha Fältskog. She made it clear that the stories of conflict were false, despite years of speculation in the media. While she acknowledged there was some competition between them, she described it as healthy and productive, something that motivated both singers to deliver strong performances. It wasn't about personal conflict or drama, but about maintaining a high standard in their work. That distinction often gets overlooked in entertainment coverage. After years of letting misconceptions flourish in the media, both women had found themselves compelled to address the same narrative. But what was it about their partnership that made the truth so much more complicated than the simple rivalry stories that journalists preferred to tell. Fame's heavy golden burden. ABBA's rise to global fame in the 70s brought massive changes to Agnetha Fältskog's life. While the group's success looked like pure celebration from the outside, the reality was more complicated. Behind the scenes, she was juggling the pressures of motherhood and the strain of a marriage that was falling apart. At the same time, she was constantly in the public eye, with her image everywhere and her personal life under scrutiny. That level of attention created a disconnect between how she was seen and how she felt, making it difficult to hold on to a sense of personal identity. After stepping away from the demands of global fame, Agnetha Fältskog returned to Sweden and shifted her focus to a quieter, more grounded life. She spent her time raising her children, giving them the attention that touring and recording had often made difficult. Gardening became part of her routine, offering a sense of calm and connection to something steady. The pace slowed, and everyday life took on a new kind of meaning, one that was rooted in simplicity rather than spotlight. Throughout her long break from the spotlight, Agnetha Fältskog released a handful of solo albums in the 1980s and early 2000s. These weren't driven by industry expectations or commercial pressure. They were personal decisions. She kept a low profile, choosing when and how to engage with music on her own terms. It wasn't until the launch of ABBA's Voyage project in 2021 that she felt ready to step back into the public eye in a more meaningful way, reconnecting with the music world and longtime fans. Today, as Agnetha approaches her 75th year, she speaks about her extraordinary journey with a sense of peace and acceptance, rather than dwelling on missed opportunities or harboring regrets about the choices she made during those crucial years of withdrawal. For the countless devoted fans who maintained their faith and patiently waited through decades, hoping for even the smallest sign of her return to music, their loyalty and persistence have been rewarded in the most beautiful way possible. For a singer so talented as Agnetha Fältskog, how did she find her path to music? Agnetha's musical childhood beginnings. Long before she became a household name around the world, Agnetha Åse Fältskog entered this world on a spring day in Jönköping, Sweden, back in 1950, completely unaware that her voice would one day captivate millions of listeners across the globe. She grew up as the eldest daughter in a fairly typical middle-class Swedish family, where her father Knut worked as a department store manager and possessed a genuine fascination with the entertainment world, while her mother Birgit focused her energy on creating a warm home environment for their two daughters. The family dynamics were quite traditional for the time, and when little sister Mona arrived 5 years later, young Agnetha had already begun showing the first signs of the musical talent that would eventually change her life forever. Even as a small child, music seemed to flow naturally through Agnetha's world, and by the tender age of 6, she'd already composed her very first song with the charming title Två små troll, or Two Small Trolls, in English. This early creative spark was nurtured when she began formal piano lessons at 8 years old, and she also found herself drawn to singing in the local church choir, where her voice could blend with others while still allowing her natural abilities to shine through. As she moved into her early teens, Agnetha's passion for music grew stronger, and she decided to take things a step further by forming a small musical group called the Cambers, with two close friends, Lena Johansson and Elizabeth Strubb. The trio performed at various local venues around their hometown, though their opportunities were somewhat limited, and the group eventually disbanded when they couldn't find enough consistent work to keep things going. Despite this early setback, the experience taught Agnetha valuable lessons about performing and working with others that would serve her well in the years to come. The real turning point in Agnetha's musical journey came when she was just 15 years old and caught the attention of a local dance band that offered her a professional singing position. This opportunity was a step forward in her musical career, that she made the bold decision to leave school behind and support herself by working as a telephonist during the day, while performing with the band in the evenings. Little did she know that her willingness to take such risks at such a young age was preparing her for even bigger decisions ahead. But would she have the same courage when faced with choosing between the security of having a full-time job and the promise of stardom that was not so sure? Agnetha's Heartbreak launches. Stardom. For 2 full years, Agnetha kept up the exhausting routine of balancing her day job as a telephonist with her evening performances alongside the Bernd Enghard Band. But as the group's local following continued to expand and their bookings became more frequent, she realized something had to give. The physical demands of maintaining both careers were becoming overwhelming, and when the band's popularity reached a point where they could offer her steady income, she made the pivotal decision to quit her office work and commit herself entirely to music. Around this same period, her personal life took a turn when her relationship with boyfriend Björn Lilja came to an end. The pain of that breakup became the catalyst for what would prove to be her breakthrough moment, as Agnetha channeled her heartache into writing a deeply personal song called Jag var så kär, which translates to I was so in love. This raw, honest composition captured something authentic about young love and loss that would soon resonate with audiences far beyond her local scene, though she had no way of knowing at the time just how significantly this one song would change the trajectory of her entire life. Meanwhile, a stroke of fortune was already working in her favor. Carl Gerhard Lundqvist, who happened to be related to one of the band members, decided to retire from his own successful rock career and transition into record production at Kupol Records. When Enghard sent him a demo tape featuring the band's performances, Lundqvist's attention was immediately captured by Agnetha's voice, and particularly by her original song, though he showed no interest whatsoever in working with the rest of the group. This created a difficult situation for Agnetha, who felt torn between loyalty to her bandmates and the opportunity to pursue what could be a life-changing solo career. But ultimately, she chose to accept Lundqvist's offer and signed her first recording contract. The decision proved to be the right one when Jag var så kär was recorded in mid-October 1967 and released just a month later, quickly climbing the charts until it reached the coveted #1 position in Sweden by late January 1968. The success was remarkable by any measure, with sales exceeding 80,000 copies and establishing Agnetha as a genuine recording artist, rather than just another local performer, and her follow-up singles Utan Dig and Allting har förändrat sig continued this winning streak throughout 1968. She even tried her hand at entering Sweden's Eurovision selection process with her song För såna day, though it didn't make the final cut. But by then it hardly mattered because she'd already proven herself as a songwriter and performer with serious commercial appeal. But as she ventured into new creative territory with television appearances and more complex songwriting, could she have predicted that one particular song would spark the kind of public debate that would follow her for years to come? Sweden's rising pop star. By the late 60s, Agnetha had firmly established herself as one of Sweden's brightest musical talents, and her growing reputation led to exciting opportunities like appearing in a television special dedicated to Swedish composer Jules Sylvain in 1969. That same year brought both triumph and controversy when she released Zigenarven, or Gypsy Friend, a song that told the romantic story of a young woman who falls for the bride's brother at a gypsy wedding. Unfortunately, the timing couldn't have been worse, since Swedish media was embroiled in a heated public debate about Romani people, and critics quickly accused Agnetha of exploiting the sensitive situation for commercial gain. The controversy stung, but it didn't derail her momentum as she continued building her career throughout this period. Her success during these years caught the attention of German songwriter and producer Dieter Zimmermann, who not only became her professional collaborator, but also her romantic partner when they got engaged. Zimmermann was confident he could help Agnetha break into the lucrative German market, and initially, things looked promising as her albums began appearing on German charts. He painted an exciting picture of the international stardom that awaited her, convincing her that Germany would be the key to expanding her career beyond Scandinavian borders. But reality proved far different from his promises. When Agnetha actually traveled to Germany to work with local record producers, the experience turned out to be deeply disappointing and creatively frustrating. The material that German producers wanted her to record struck her as absolutely terrible, and she wasn't willing to compromise her artistic integrity just to chase commercial success in a new market. Her refusal to go along with their vision created tension and ultimately made it clear that this path wasn't going to work, leading her to make the difficult decision to end both her professional relationship with the German market and her personal engagement to Zimmermann before returning home to Sweden. Back on familiar ground in 1970, Agnetha released Om Tårar vore guld, or If Tears Were Gold, but this song would eventually land her in legal hot water that lasted for years. Danish composer Per Wied claimed she'd lifted 22 bars from his composition Tema, which he'd written back in the 50s but had never actually recorded, creating a complicated copyright dispute that dragged through the courts. The case became a lengthy ordeal that wasn't resolved until 1977, when Agnetha finally agreed to pay Wied 5 million Swedish kroner to settle the matter and put the controversy behind her once and for all. Perhaps it was easier for the press to focus on imaginary drama than acknowledge the real challenges these women faced. But how could anyone truly understand the weight of international stardom without living through it themselves? From stage to ABBA. In 1972, Agnetha Fältskog joined the Swedish cast of Jesus Christ Superstar, taking on the role of Mary Magdalene. It was a change from her usual pop performances, placing her in a theatrical setting that demanded both strong vocals and emotional range. The production gave her a chance to explore dramatic storytelling through music, adding a new layer to her experience as a performer. It also marked a step into musical theater, showing she could handle complex material outside the pop genre. The seeds of what would become ABBA were actually planted years earlier when Agnetha first encountered Björn Ulvaeus from the Hootenanny Singers in 1968, though their initial meeting didn't immediately spark either romance or musical collaboration. When they met again the following year, however, something clicked between them, and their growing relationship naturally intertwined with her developing friendship with Anni-Frid Lyngstad and Benny Andersson, who'd already begun writing songs with Björn. In 1972, Agnetha Fältskog joined the Swedish cast of Jesus Christ Superstar, taking on the role of Mary Magdalene. It was a major shift from her usual pop performances, placing her in a theatrical setting that demanded both strong vocals and emotional range. The production gave her a chance to explore dramatic storytelling through music, adding a new layer to her experience as a performer. It also marked a step into musical theater, showing she could handle complex material outside the pop genre. Despite the pain of their marriage ending, both Agnetha and Björn demonstrated remarkable professionalism by agreeing that their personal issues wouldn't interfere with ABBA's continued success and their obligations to the group. Their breakup actually became creative fuel when Björn channeled his emotions into writing The Winner Takes It All, transforming their personal heartbreak into one of ABBA's most powerful and enduring songs. Throughout this period and her entire time with ABBA, some international markets knew Agnetha as Anna. But regardless of the name, her voice remained the golden thread that helped weave together some of the most beloved pop music of the 70s and beyond. But even as she went through the divorce, could anyone have predicted she'd still have the energy to pursue her own solo work while ABBA was at the height of their success? Agnetha's creative journey. While ABBA was conquering the world stage in 1975, Agnetha managed to carve out time for her own creative expression, working on her solo album 11 kvinnor I ett hus, under samma period när hennes bandmedlem Anni-Frid spelade in hennes toppnoterande svenska album Frida ensam. Both women were juggling their individual artistic visions alongside the demanding schedule of ABBA sessions and promotional work for the albums Waterloo and ABBA, which required incredible energy and dedication to maintain both projects simultaneously. Agnetha's solo effort turned out to be remarkably successful in terms of longevity, spending an impressive 53 weeks on the Swedish album chart, which actually surpassed any of ABBA's own albums in terms of chart endurance, though it peaked at number 11 and never quite reached the top 10 despite its staying power. the album showed her songwriting talents beautifully, featuring 3 tracks that became major hits on Svensk toppen, including her Swedish-language version of ABBA's SOS, which climbed to number 4 on the singles chart, plus Tack för en underbar vanlig dag and Dock Torn. Most remarkably, except for the SOS cover, all the songs featured lyrics by Bosse Karlgren set to music that Agnetha had composed herself, demonstrating her abilities as both a melodic creator and a collaborative artist. The project had actually been brewing in her mind since 1972, when she first started writing the songs, but the intense demands of ABBA's rising success and her pregnancy had forced her to put the album on hold until she could dedicate proper time and attention to bringing her vision to life. Originally, Agnetha and Karlgren had envisioned something quite ambitious and theatrical for the album, planning to create a musical story featuring 12 different female characters who all lived in the same apartment building, with each song representing one woman's unique perspective and experiences. Though they ultimately scaled back to 11 songs and didn't fully develop the conceptual framework they'd originally imagined, the album still carried traces of that character-driven approach and showcased Agnetha's impressive vocal range, which spans from D3 to E6 and demonstrates her classically trained soprano abilities. Throughout her solo career between 1968 and 1980, Agnetha proved herself as a consistent hitmaker on Swedish radio, racking up 18 entries on the prestigious Svensktoppen chart that began with her breakthrough single Jag var så kär, hitting number 1 in January 1968, and concluded with När du tar mig i din famn from her compilation album 10 år med Agnetha, also reaching the top spot in January 1980. These 18 hits, most of which featured her own compositions or co-writing credits, spent a combined total of 139 weeks on the charts during this 12-year period, with her biggest solo success being Tårar vore guld, which held the number 1 position for 15 weeks. She even ventured into holiday music by recording the Christmas album Nu tändas tusen juleljus with her young daughter Linda Ulvaeus, which reached number 6 on the Swedish album chart in December 1981, and added another dimension to her already diverse musical portfolio. Her solo career had proven she could thrive independently, but as ABBA's chapter quietly closed, she faced a completely different kind of creative challenge. Would this collaboration with Thomas Ledin mark the beginning of a new phase in her musical journey? Or was she simply testing the waters before diving into something even more ambitious? Agnetha's bold solo leap. As 1982 drew to a close, the world's most beloved pop group quietly began to fade away. Though no formal announcement ever declared ABBA's end, they simply stopped making music together as the 4 members drifted toward their own creative paths. During this uncertain transition period, Agnetha found herself collaborating with Thomas Ledin, a Swedish singer who'd previously worked as a backing vocalist for ABBA, on a duet called Never Again that struck an immediate chord with audiences across Scandinavia. The song became a genuine hit, climbing into the top 5 in Sweden and breaking into the top 10 in Norway, Belgium, and Finland, while also getting released as Ja nunca más for Spanish-speaking markets, proving that Agnetha's appeal could transcend both language barriers and her ABBA identity. That same summer brought another creative challenge when Agnetha stepped into acting, taking on a leading role in the Swedish film Raskenstam, which showed her willingness to explore different artistic territories beyond the recording studio. This move into cinema demonstrated her desire to stretch her talents in new directions, though it would be her return to music that really captured the world's attention. By May 1983, she was ready to make her boldest statement yet as a solo artist with the release of Wrap Your Arms Around Me, an album that would prove she could stand completely on her own in the post-ABBA landscape. Working with producer Mike Chapman, Agnetha crafted an album that found different levels of success across various markets, performing moderately well in North America and Australia, while absolutely conquering European charts in ways that surprised even industry insiders. The record shot to number 1 in Sweden, Norway, Finland, Belgium, and Denmark, where it actually became the year's biggest-selling album, while also reaching the top 5 in Germany and the Netherlands, and climbing to number 18 in the UK. Within just its first year, Wrap Your Arms Around Me sold an impressive 1.5 million copies, establishing Agnetha as a legitimate solo force, rather than just an ex-ABBA member trying to recapture past glory. The album's singles proved just how successfully she'd reinvented herself with The Heat Is On, becoming a chart topper across Scandinavia and Belgium, while reaching number 2 in the Netherlands and Germany, and even managing to hit number 35 in the UK. Her highest and only top 40 hit there until 2004. The title track, Wrap Your Arms Around Me, also performed brilliantly, reaching number 1 in Belgium and number 4 in the Netherlands, while North American audiences connected most strongly with Can't Shake Loose, which climbed to number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 23 on Canada's RPM chart, proving that Agnetha's voice could still move people, whether they remembered her from ABBA or were discovering her for the first time. What do you think about Agnetha Fältskog's musical journey? And do you think what she claimed about not having a rift among the band members is true? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.